Stop being afraid, and here's how to do that. I've spent years helping people to pursue virtue and avoid vice. I've also attempted to live this way myself, not always perfectly, but at least I've striven to live a virtuous life over the past 20 years. And I've learned over this time that fear is the mind killer. Fear is the thing that shuts us down. Fear is the thing that prevents us from having great success in life. And there are a number of kinds of fears that make us sick and ill so that we can't be healthy and flourishing and enjoy our lives. Doctors sometimes they often diagnose your ills and then prescribe medicine to cure you. But what if we could do the same thing when it comes to virtue and vice? I think we can. And so in this video, I want to cover and diagnose 7 types of fear and give medicine to cure each kind of it. It may not be every kind of fear out there, it for sure is not, but it'll give you a sense of the kinds of fears that can put a stop to our regular life and the kind of cures that can help each of these fears. The first kind of fear is the fear of hard work. This might be a weird one, but most of us want to avoid pain and pursue pleasure. And the pain of hard work sometimes can seem so loathsome that it becomes a fearful thing. We not only fear just, oh, it's going to be so hard and I'm going to be tired, can I actually do it? But we sometimes can also fear it in a different way. We can fear by saying, oh, this is going to be so much work to get this done. I have so much more fun things that I want to do. I'm just afraid that I'll lose my own free time. But at the end of the day, what we're really admitting is that we are afraid. We're afraid of working hard. We're afraid of losing our free time. We're afraid of not being able to do what we want. This is a species of cowardice. It's a species of our inability to have courage to overcome these kinds of fears. And that's why I would diagnose this at least as a species of cowardice. And the medicine is courage. Now, there's much more to say about courage, but in this video I'm going to make it simple. So you're going to take your courage. Courage is doing the right thing on the basis of a long reflection in the same direction by using wisdom to discern good from evil. And once good is chosen, courage is what you need to do to overcome it. So often a noble work is hard to do, it is difficult to achieve, and fear can make us not want to achieve it because of the hard work or because we want free time or because we're selfish. But we need courage to overcome it. The second kind of fear is the fear of conflict. We are very, very conflict averse often. Sometimes you'll be on the internet and you'll make your little snide comments, but in person, it's nearly impossible for us to have confidence in conflict. We either rage out of control because of our inability to master our own passions, or we shrink away and remain quiet and on the car ride away rehearse the conversation in our head, wishing we would have said this or that and thinking of how smart we would have been if we did. But in essence, we fear other people's opinions. We think that they have power over us if we have a conflict with them. And it could be a good conflict, mind you, but it could be a conflict that needs to happen. We also fear maybe hurting people's feelings or losing their friendship or losing the respect of people around us or whatever it is. Whenever conflict occurs, there is a sort of fear that we have that we might lose friends, we might lose people's love or approbation of us, we might lose our reputation. Whatever it is a fear of loss. And this fear of loss means that we can't live a life full of confidence. And this is similar to the first one, and I would actually diagnose this as another species of cowardice. And by the way, I'm not advocating that you're a confrontational person and you get into a fight with everyone else. That's another vice that is much worse than the one that I'm talking about, or equally worse, we might say. Well, no, what I'm saying is that we need to have the courage to confront real problems that we have with people rationally, kindly, quietly, with strength, based on justice, following a long contemplation in the same direction so that we have wisely chosen the right course of action. That's what I'm talking about. Third kind of fear is the fear of the future. Sometimes we are so caught up in worry about the future that we are almost paralyzed, that we can't live in the present because we're worried about tomorrow. tomorrow has so many worries and concerns, and we can't even deal with what's going on here. Often this means that we essentially think that tomorrow will be worse than today. We think that next week will be worse than today. And so our present is held hostage by our future despair. So my diagnosis here is hopelessness or despair. And this despair is an intentional choice to live in such a way that your present is ruined because you believe your future will be worse. But you don't know your future. You don't know what will happen. And there is every reason to believe that hope is possible, even in a world in which despair seems everywhere reasonable. Now, hope is a difficult thing. We can hope in friendship. We can hope that goodness will overcome evil. We can hope in God. We can hope in the resurrection. You can hope in philosophy, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, your hope needs to be rational, reasoned, and sure to avoid despair. So seek out what that hope might be and find it according to wisdom and make sure that it is right and have the courage, therefore, to hope to overcome today's despair. Fourth, we often fear pulling the trigger on a project. You want to start a new business, you want to reach out and do something kind of crazy and hard, but you have a sort of fear that, oh, I don't think I can do this, or why does this always happen to me? There's this problem. Nobody else has this problem. If I had their life, I'd for sure be successful in this scenario. Oh, I just can't do it. It's too hard. I'll just wait for tomorrow. I'll think about it later. Nope. What you're actually describing is acedia. You're describing the vice of sloth, essentially. Because acedia or sloth is the vice by which we do not attain the greatness to which we have been called. And the cure for acedia, the cure for slothfulness, the cure for this special form of vice that doesn't quite sound like it should in English, to be a sloth that makes you think that you're, essentially just lazy. That's not quite it. It's not achieving the greatness to which you are called. And so you are called to greatness, to nobility, to honor, to goodness, to love, to all of these things, and you must attain it. And so these are all excuses. It is possible that you don't have the same advantage as others do. You may even have disadvantages. But by pulling back and not seeking greatness, you have given into a particular fear that leads to acedia, to sloth, to nothingness. The fifth kind of fear is the fear of telling the truth. This is a tough one. Part of that has to be with the fear that's connected to guilt. You feel terrible, you did something wrong, you don't want to tell the truth, or even if you didn't do something wrong, you're afraid because if you tell the truth, you may hurt someone's feelings, there might be a loss of a relationship, but again, you're fearing the pain of loss, and this is a problem. It could also be that you don't have the courage to do the right thing, to pursue justice, because telling the truth would be just. It could also be that you don't know justice. It's a complex kind of fear, but and also occasionally it could be due to shame. You feel ashamed for something you did, therefore to tell the truth about it, you would say, well, I'll lose my reputation. There's a fear of the pain of the loss of reputation. And so all of these things are complex and hard, but you could diagnose this broadly as the problem of this kind of fear of telling the truth is connected to guilt. And the cure is justice. You need to do what is right. And if you consistently do what is right, you won't have the shame and guilt for doing what is wrong. And when you have done something that's wrong, you will find that if you confess what you have done and make things right, that your conscience will feel clear, and that will be worth all the money in the world to have a clean conscience. The sixth fear is the fear of love. And this is an interesting one. We sometimes are afraid to give ourselves fully in love and commitment to someone else. So you can date, or you never want to marry, you never want to have commitment at a job, you never want to commit to a degree, you never want to commit to anything in life. You fear to give yourself fully over to someone else, to be vulnerable and open to them. And there's a twofold problem here. One is the inability for you to be vulnerable, to open yourself up, to take a risk, to follow someone is often tied to pride, because you want to have the pleasure of, being completely independent and having no problems seen by anyone else. Now that's a form of pride. It's also it's a form of cowardice as well. And so the cure for this kind of fear of love, loving one another, loving yourself, loving God, etc., the cure is humility and courage. Humility to realize that you need other people's help. You need to give yourself to someone else. You need partnership, companionship, friendship, deep love, because you need to be fulfilled in and through love and community. You are not an independent person. And courage, because love takes courage, takes bravery. Love is hard. It's difficult. It opens you up to all sorts of vulnerabilities, and therefore it requires the bravery of a medieval knight, you might say. The last kind of fear is more practical. It's the fear of deadlines. It's the fear of saying you will do things by X or Y time. You will do things and get them done in order. And often this fear means that you don't actually get things done on time, and people get upset with you and you're embarrassed, and you may not be as successful at your work or your job. Part of this is due to the diagnosis then is due to a lack of self-control and structure in your life. This fear of deadlines is actually caused by an illness that is a lack of self-control. You know what is right, but you don't do what is right. And the cure is self-control. If you want to learn more about self-control, watch this video above my shoulder where I define it and give you a deeper sense of what this actually looks like. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe.